Hello, I am Paula Bennett and welcome to my New Zealand Herald podcast, Ask Me Anything. One thing I've learnt in life, it's never too late to learn something new. So, on this podcast, I talk to people from all walks of life to hear about how they got to where they are and get some advice and guidance on some of life's biggest questions. This week, my guest is leading footwear designer and businesswoman Kathryn Wilson. Setting up her business at just 22, this year marks 20 years in business for Kathryn. Her fabulous footwear, finding high-profile fans, including the likes of Beyoncé and Jimmy Choo. Kathryn joins me this week to talk about the key to success running a New Zealand business, particularly in fashion, where there is so much international competition and pressure from fast fashion. Kathryn, welcome in.
Thank you, Paula. I'm so excited to be here.
Thanks for joining me. I've got 2 rules.
Yes.
Easy. It's called Ask Me Anything.
Okay.
So I can ask you anything.
You can.
But you don't actually have to answer.
Okay.
It's a good life lesson.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do I pull on my right ear if it's a no?
Just go silent.
Laugh?
Yeah.
Just laugh.
And we do the no judgy. Right?
Okay.
So this is a safe space, so we don't judge anybody. We certainly don't judge each other.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, they're just good lessons in life,
Okay.
I think. Okay, quick fire. Who would you invite to a dinner party?
Oh, good time people that make me laugh. Yourself.
Oh,
Beyoncé. My dad, who passed away when I was 7.
Yeah.
Can I go living in?
Yeah, of course. Should you wear the pair of shoes that are a wee bit too high, but you love them, to that dinner party because you're sitting down most of the time?
I'm okay with it sitting down. None of my shoes would feel like that though, Paula.
No,
You should
they
know
wouldn't.
that. So if it's not a pair of my shoes, that's okay to wear to the dinner party.
Yeah.
All Kathryn Wilson shoes you can wear all night.
You can, because they're not.
You
And
can dance in them.
I might own a few pairs, to be fair. Why don't you? But yeah, I just that occasionally you've got that, old pair of stilettos and you can't quite get yourself to throw them away, yet you know you can't wear them. But
That's an opportunity, definitely, to bring out your dinner shoes, right? I think if there's ever a time, it's when you're being dropped at the door and it's a sit at dinner and then you're being collected afterwards,
yeah, absolutely. Okay, what would you cook at the dinner party?
Oh, I love to cook, actually. It doesn't happen often in our household because I have a 4-year-old and 8-year-old. And when we're away on holiday, it's my favourite thing to do. If I can have a dinner party with best friends, big long table, lots of laughter, start early, it's my dream night, really. But I'm a good salad girl, love to prepare about 3 or 4 different salads.
Yum.
And then I go through phases of protein. Probably I've been at your place or someone's house where they've shown me how to do something.
Yeah.
It's always my new fix, At the moment I'm on a ottolenghi orzo that a friend made for me, and so now I try and replicate it every time I have someone come over.
Oh, that sounds good. I'm lucky enough that I'm also on my podcast. I've got 2 raw sisters, and I've got their salad book.
Nice.
And 70 salad recipes that I'm just trying to
share
work
that.
my way. But yeah, I am going to
Girlfriend.
share that with you. It is really cool, and it's just got some really nice different things that we're just thinking, we can experiment over summer.
So good.
So good. Okay. We are going to chat later and get your advice about running a successful New Zealand business. So we want to know how to stand out from international brands, but let's get to know your story a little bit better first.
Sure.
So you're wonderful, positive, bubbly. Were you like that as a child?
I would say, we were just talking about in the lift getting in here, growing up in Papakura. So my mum was a primary school teacher. I was 7, she taught me. But my mother is, and you've met Mum, she's an optimist, cup full, happy-go-lucky, laughs at the end of every sentence. Definitely taught us and brought us up to kind of see the best in every situation. So I think to my advantage being the youngest, I was the youngest of 3 girls. By the time it came round to, Mum probably guiding me in terms of career choice or what I might like to dream to be when I was older, it was like, choose a job you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Mm-hmm. Having an older sister, my oldest sister, that was double degree science and IT, super clever. And then the middle sister went on to become a midwife and had 8 children. So she got me off the hook from having young family, and then Mum was just like, oh, you just go and be happy, do something that you love. And I'll never take that for granted, especially now being a mum myself, having that opportunity to kind of think that way. What am I good at? What do I love doing? And then probably having teachers, people, mentors from such a young age that, again, just said, go for it, do it. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. And you touched on your dad passing away when you were 7. So what impact did that have on you and your sisters?
Well, yeah, in retrospect, probably it did possibly bring that into the, the way we were brought up as well, that as in life is not forever, here to have a good time. Let's make it fun while we're here, and maybe that is Mum's take on how we should all appreciate the time we have and, make sure whatever we're doing, it makes us happy.
Yeah.
I know for sure now, me experiencing that now that I'm a mother as well, it's very much kind of something that's front of mind for me, just to, maybe that's how we all live as well at the moment these days. It's just like make the most of every moment that you have together with your best friends and your favourite people and do a job you love so you never work a day in your life.
Yeah. And you obviously had wonderful sisters and a wonderful mum. So, a tight family unit.
Yeah,
with
absolutely.
lots of laughter. So
yes, and I think people that wrapped around us at that age and then right through, school, teachers, like people that encouraged me. I think I was in a generation too where it wasn't so different to my mum, where she used to talk about being offered kind of 3 jobs when she finished school. A teacher, a nurse, or air steward. For example.
Yeah.
And so she then went off to become a teacher, loved it. But I think by the time I was going through, I went to Roseville College, Papakura, and we had a trial curriculum, this is in the 90s, where we got to study 7 subjects for School C or bursary, which meant for me, I got to scrape by my English marks, 50%, history or, geography, whatever my passes were, but then get A pluses in art, graphics, art practical, fashion, fabric design, photography, and actually, funnily enough, maths, really quite strong at maths. So I then, really enjoyed going to school because they were things that I was good at, that I liked.
As you point out, you've always been then creative and you've always had that eye for something that's different. And is that what got you into shoes?
Well, I think Mum jokes about having three girls. We used to go to Para Rubber. In Papakura, we had one local, and she would let us get a couple of pairs of shoes each, time we went in, Kung Fu's or Commando M's. They were the little canvas uppers. And we were allowed to choose some colours, and then we would go home and decorate them and have competitions on who could have the coolest pair with like puff paint pens.
Yeah, that's quite cool.
But Mum said I would go one step further, cut the toe out, turn them into a sling back, and she'd go, oh, Kathryn, they're brand new shoes. But I'd be quite stoked that they, no one had a pair like me, or they'd be really individual. I don't know if I was then destined to be a shoe designer, but I think I was a creative child that enjoyed kind of customising things at a young age, and luckily enough encouraged to pursue more and more of that as I went on to study.
So how did you get into shoes then, when obviously with that eye you could have gone into clothing fashion, you could have had quite a few choices?
Yeah, after school, my first job at the Manukau shopping centre was... one of my first jobs was at Andrebiani shoes, and I then developed an absolute love affair with the actual product of a shoe. I think it was of course I was interested in fashion and I was interested in shoes, but then when I got to be around them, sell them, kind of be around like-minded people that collect shoes, I definitely developed a love affair. I would volunteer to work at the factory in Newland on the weekends. I made a video like montage of the manufacturing process just for laughs because I was so interested in it. I would sweep the floor of the factory for free. And then when I was 18, worked in the Newmarket store, went to AUT and enrolled in fashion because I couldn't study footwear in New Zealand. I went into a fashion program. And then worked at Andrebiani Shoes, Newmarket, and my manager there said to me, who's your pinnacle of who do you look up to in fashion at the moment? And who would you just love to, learn from? And I remember I was 18 and said, oh, well, I love what Karen Walker's doing, and she's about 10 years into her business, but wow, she's so global and so exciting, and if I could be like a New Zealand shoe name, but like of her scale, I'd really, it would be my dream. So she had in the back of the, this is in the 90s, looked up the white pages with the finger down the paper and looked up the number, rung it and passed me the phone and said, well, there we are, ring that. Tell them you work for free. Tell them you'll sweep the floors. And I'll just never forget, like someone that prompted me, believed in me, said, go for it. You should go and work for your favourite, go and offer to work
Wow.
for them and work for them. That led to a 1-year internship where I'd get the train in from Papakura at 6 a.m, sweep the floors to Kathyrn Wilson, iron the garment for sale. Really just with eyes and ears open, and learnt so much from just being in this environment where I was terrified of everyone. And I remember thinking everyone was so good looking and so cool, and I'd kind of hope that no one talked to me all day. But that opened my eyes to the scale of the industry. And then I was like, I could do this. I could be like New Zealand's name in shoes. And that spurred me on to go to Massey in my second year, won a scholarship to study in England, came back, won an A&P scholarship for shoes. So I think from then on it was just like kind of kicked off the momentum of really being focused on footwear being
So
my
why
thing.
do you think so many women and men have got such a thing for shoes? Why do you think it's the fashion item that quite often, I don't, because people ask me why. My father used to say that I had, actually had a psychological problem.
I love you. For me, I like to think it's how it makes you feel when you put on a pair of shoes, that it's like your stature. Of course, clothing is similar because it's how we present ourselves to others. But footwear, you can kind of check yourself out. Like I can look at what you're wearing and think that's so beautifully put together, but really all you're seeing in your view is this. And I wonder if that's a part of it. You're like getting a lot of joy and confidence from this. Maybe for me, but also it's like the old saying of shoulders back, head high. And often a pair of heels can do that to your posture and make you feel a certain way when you put them on. But in saying that, I mean, of course, none of us are wearing heels all day, every day anymore. And it doesn't have to be a heeled shoe, but something that you put on that changes the way you feel. It's like matching underwear, on the inside, because you're kind of like, I got this. Like a dentist appointment or a doctor or something you don't want to do.
If I was giving a really important speech and was a bit nervous beforehand, I would always say to people, you either know when I'm tired or when I'm a little bit nervous. I wear red lipstick and I wear a kick-ass pair of shoes.
Nice.
For the confidence.
Yeah.
And I would feel far more confident in it.
So I think it is a bit of that. It's happiness as well. Like it brings you joy. Shoes just, I think, for someone like me and probably yourself, it is confidence. So it's also like, it's happiness because you can keep them forever. It's not something that's here today, gone tomorrow. You invest in something, hopefully, well made, and they're not dated. They're timeless things that you can pepper into your wardrobe, and they might be something you've had for 15 years, but it's something you bring back with something you've just bought or brings colour to the outfit.
I genuinely get heart palpitations sitting in one of your shops, and I'm like, that one. Oh, can you give me that? Oh gosh, get me that one as well. And then and then often wandering around, I'll have like 4 shoes in my hand, and I'll go, which one?
And
I'll go,
smelling them.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to try them all on. Yeah, because I have an argument that shoes come in pairs, so you should always buy 2 pair at a time.
I love that.
Yeah,
it's like a one.
Like it's pairs, right?
We should have you on a commission.
So you don't want them lonely.
Yeah. I like it. I'm going to use that.
But that's interesting what you say about it's the item that you see the most. Because it was quite funny when I lost weight. I only realised I'd lost quite a bit of weight by my hands.
Oh, yeah.
And then my surgeon said, well, it's because it's the part of your body that you look at the most.
Interesting.
And I thought,
might need more diamonds on that.
It is. I thought, that's kind of... Do you also think, you wouldn't know, but I also used to think that, particularly when I was a lot bigger and you're a bit more body conscious and that sort of thing, that it's like, no, that blouse might not fit me.
Sure.
But actually,
your trusty shoes.
My trusty shoes will.
Sure. And it's something you can... purchase, invest in at any time of your life, regardless of if you've just had a baby or if you're, at times where women might feel a little bit more vulnerable or not their best self in terms of their body, or for whatever reason, just recovering from something medical or, there's a lot of reasons why shoes is something that it's actually it is a pick-me-up, I think, for a lot of people. I'd like to think that it's something because they're going to keep them forever and it's your lifelong friend. Also, I think it's the association we have with this shoe when we've had really good times. So there's so many heels, and I know you're a fan of a particular heel, Chalice, which we've done in so many colours, named after a friend, Charlie. And that is something that often girls will wear to weddings, to events, to parties. They'll dance in all night long, but know that it's their trusty heel that they've had so many good times in. So when they see that shoe and associate it with like a really good time, a dance floor, a night out with girls, it does kind of, these endorphins start releasing of how happy they make them.
That's kind of cool. Okay, let's talk about the business around running a business, because that's a big step, right? So, in those early days, you're doing the design, but then who's making them? How are they being made? How do you get into retail? How do you kind of, talk us a little bit through that kind of process in the early stages of starting a business?
I think being 22, I had amazing mentorship and guidance from Caroline and Lloyd Sills.
Yeah.
So that I was designing clothing for them at the time, straight out of university. It was my first job. And I'd been with them a year and applied for the AMP scholarship for shoes, which I was fortunate enough to win, which at that time I said, look, I'm going to use this money to go on an internship and do footwear in Belgium with an Antwerp designer. And Caroline obviously was probably a bit inconvenienced by the thought of me leaving after training me in knitwear for a year, and said, well, actually, if you stay, we'll help finance you with your own shoes designs and sample some of your ideas, and we can present them to some stores, and if they like them, we'll make them, kind of thing, as in prompted me to just sit tight, stay on board, and let's just explore the footwear thing. That then led to a 15-year shareholding agreement that we had together, 50% shareholding. And I really, truly think in hindsight that enabled me to grow organically without the shoes needing to be an overnight success. I had a full-time job designing clothing for them for 8 years, as in the sense of security that the shoes was like a treat. And when I got to work on the footwear, it was because my day job, my mortgage was paid. I had other responsibilities, but actually it kept the shoes as a bit of a fun thing that grew on the side. And initially it really was. We sold 7 styles. We launched in 2003, 7 styles, and sold into 7 stores. And they were just stores that I handpicked as my dream, Helen Cherry from Workshop, Angel Divine in Queenstown, Fabric, store in Invercargill. And some of these are still supplying after 20 years. It's awesome. But they were really just handpicked out of people that I'd love to, be my dream to sell to. And then it grew year on year, as in sold more shoes, ordered more, got more stockists, designed more styles. And after 15 years of that nurturing and, I guess, building the back end of the business with their help and support, that's huge, because with the likes of meeting mentors like Julie Christie and Dame Roseanne Mayo and other women that have kind of helped at pivotal times, it was because I had that fundamental grounding of someone believing in me and my idea. So I wonder whether that took a lot of the pressure off, financially for sure, but also if someone backs you and believes in you, it kind of gives you a bit of a spur. And I kind of joke about being accidentally in business, because it came from a passion for the product, and I just was obsessed with shoes, and there was no way it wasn't going to work. I'd never thought about the fact that it might not. I'd never thought someone else might not like my shoes, because of course they're going to love them, because they're beautiful.
Yeah, and comfortable. Yeah.
So I think maybe that naivety of being young and the support of having the nurturing of an established, well-respected business like Caroline Sills with her networks of supply chain. I was going up to China and Asia 4 times a year with her for the knitwear. I was researching in Europe for, textile fairs. I'd go to a shoe fair at the same time, back it onto a trip that I was already doing with them. Meeting with suppliers where I was already probably used to being fronting that for their business as well. So even though looking back, it does feel like, what was I thinking at 22? There was also a lot of support around me. There is
something about having that punch of being young, and you're like, what's the worst scenario? And let's just go for it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we have to ask about Beyoncé.
Yes.
So, so she's worn your shoes. Tell me a bit about,
So all of us are hard out fans, right? I just, everything she represents for me we're similar age, and I think her journey of career, empowering woman, a lot of it's kind of said a lot these days. But and just she's ambitious, fearless, takes risks, leading in the sense of, I don't know if you've watched this Renaissance tour she's done this year. Every country and city she's designed alongside a couturier designer, different outfits, looks, costumes. She's got her daughter touring with her on the stage, encouraging her daughter and all the kids her daughter's age to dream big. I just think she represents so much more, and I'm a total fangirl, but represents so much more than just her music. And I've always really enjoyed, I guess, the joy that her music brings females together, especially on the dance floor.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, I noticed in say, pandemic years, and some of the music was getting a little bit political and the messaging was a bit heavy, and it took the joy away from it for me, because actually I find I go to music for lightheartedness. It's a bit like film, like girls' nights in, dancing in the lounge. It's just lightens everything. So I really embrace what she represents for that era and that genre for me. So when she was coming to New Zealand, I was all about, like, how do I get in front of her? How do I meet her? No, not going to happen. How do I get my shoes in front of her? Not going to happen. And her, like her music agency, I guess, is Sony. And Liam, my husband, had met with and said, I could introduce you to, Sony at her... After the concert, we all went to the after party. And back in the day, this is probably 1885 in the basement.
Yeah.
It was very cool. And the dancers were all having a after party. And I, of course, when they said, did you want to come along? And yes, if there's any possible, 7 degrees of separation.
Yeah, I'll serve
yes.
drinks.
Yeah. And so across the room, I see Ty, who was her stylist of 20 years with Destiny's Child, right back in those days. He's quite recognisable with the perm fringe, and he had a beanie on, and at the time, he was in a few of her music videos. And I said to Taryn from Sony, oh, my God, is that Ty? And she's like, yeah, do you want to meet him? And I was, yes, of course I want to meet him. And I did the whole fangirl thing of, Beyonce's an inspiration to women all around the world, and she's so amazing, and she's, women in business and women in fashion, and probably made a fool of myself. My husband was like, okay, babe, we should go. But had my photo taken with him, told him all about my brand, told him, how much the idea of her meant to me, but also that obviously shoes. So in the morning, he must have brought it up with the girls at Sony and said, the shoe designer, she was probably, she was keen. But I don't know what was said exactly, but she was lovely. Shall we try and get some shoes across, to put in front of Beyonce? And I'll never forget the phone call, because I was going to Rarotonga on a family holiday with my 10-year-old niece and my mum and my sisters. And Taryn had said, if you can get them across to her and drop them we could, we're not taking any gifts. This is how amazing, obviously, how wholesome she is. They weren't accepting diamonds. They said, don't send anything to the hotel. We won't take any gifts. But Taryn had said, but if you can get, we can do this. Anyway, so I wrote on a postcard with a biro, like a Bic pen, and I'll never forget that, I gutted, dear Beyonce, on a Kathryn Wilson postcard, dear Beyonce, thinking I'm never going to write this again in my life. But shame on my name, it's not like a beautiful
fountain
ink pen.
Yeah, gold.
And then I was like, what do you say? Because but I said something along the lines of enjoy your time in New Zealand. I had nothing, didn't know what to say. Love you forever fan. And then I went to Rarotonga, obviously high hopes that she might even see them, let alone love them. Yeah. And then at 5 a.m, one of the mornings, my husband rang and I thought something terrible had happened. And I answered and he said, babe, you've got to get near Wi-Fi. Beyonce's put a photo of your shoes on her Instagram to 88 million followers. And I think for me then I burst into tears, and not because, obviously it is a kind of career milestone, a highlight for me, but actually it was the hugest warm fuzzy. I just thought oh my God, if she loves them, that's it, I've made it.
Yeah. I've made it. I don't blame you at all. So, 2 girls.
Yes.
4 and 8. Do Lola and Stella love shoes?
So Lola initially was quite a tomboy, and I've had to mould her into becoming a little bit more interested in clothing and fashion. But definitely now she's 8, she was really into, this year they came to Fashion Week, and my husband plonked them up on the stage at the end, which I didn't know was going to happen. But lucky they're of an age where they probably didn't realise or register the scale of how many people were in the audience. So they fearlessly walked up to me with some flowers. They loved that show. I think they loved the music, the lights, and I have the most beautiful photos a friend took of her face, just looking up at this wonderful aura of just the taking it all in. I loved that because it meant a lot to me. It doesn't have to be about fashion, but again, kind of showing them this level of fearlessness, production, and putting yourself out there, and it's great, isn't it? Because it is a risk at the end of the day that a lot of things could
Yeah.
be taken
But they were
negatively.
proud of you and
I
saw
think
you in
I'd
your
like to think
spotlight.
so. Maybe. And the 4-year-old, yeah, she's all about a party. She's at kindy today dressed as Belle from Beauty and the Beast and
Yes.
wearing Cinderella shoes, and chose my shoes today, wouldn't let me come, wearing sneakers. So she's definitely a bit more in and out of my shoe wall and my wardrobe.
Yeah, I
putting
like
things on.
that. I like that. Okay, up next, let's chat business a bit more in the fashion industry. I want to know more about your key to success running a fashion label from New Zealand with the increasing pressure that we're seeing from international brands and fast fashion. So, back with New Zealand's premier shoe designer and businesswoman, Kathryn Wilson. Right, let's really get into the business side now. I want advice from you on how to run a successful New Zealand-based business with so much international competition. So, what would you say to that 18-year-old you that went, I'm going to start a brand and, here I go?
I think it does come down to optimism, a little bit of that whole, obviously, determination, naivety and fearlessness. But if it was me, I'd love to do nothing more. If I wasn't doing shoes, I would teach 5-year-olds about optimism in primary school. I think it's so important to dream big, to be visionary, to think global. I think there wasn't anyone that ever said to me as a primary school child or even through high school, believe it or not, growing up in Papakura, that I couldn't do it. I went to a footwear industry AGM board meeting and I was 21, 22, and they said, pick another career. This is dire. Everything's closing down. Everything's moving offshore. Do something else. You'd be crazy to go into footwear.
Yeah.
I think by that age, I was like, well, I will show you. I'll prove you wrong.
Yeah.
But as a little one, I think I was probably... never told you shouldn't or you couldn't or you wouldn't. And then that is really big to me. If it's an 18-year-old, 5-year-old, whatever age, I think just go global. Just because we're based in New Zealand and we happen to be logistically out of, reach necessarily or we're further away. And now with the market we're selling to, global market, especially with e-commerce, it's very much an overnight courier to any part of the world. And we consider having a global audience, it's just a given now. So I think there's very much, when I started out, sure, we were selling to a local, a domestic market. We were focused on Australia. We just sold a little bit into Hong Kong, Singapore, but now, of course, it's global all the way. I think there's a little bit of New Zealand having it's to our advantage, maybe, that we have a great global brand and how we are considered internationally as a design force, that goes from our wine, our exports, our agriculture, our meat, quality, but then design, it's actually really well respected.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had that almost set up for me with the likes of Trellis, Kate, Karen, Zambezi, that had kind of pioneered these New Zealand brands on a global stage with Fashion Week in London. And then going into the industry 20 years almost after them, it was like, yeah, you can do this.
So do you have to be in that market to get your product on their shelves?
As in physically?
Well, so yeah. Or do you have someone that's there, or is it showing at a certain time or place? Or
Sure. I mean, I think there's the likes of agencies that, you need to rely on representing you if you're not the one peddling it. You're always better to be the one over there and physically present, doing shows in different markets. And there's a lot of New Zealand kind of up-and-coming brands that are really brave doing that and showing in New York and showing in Paris. And I applaud it because it's almost... of course, the domestic market is our focus because we're really loved and we have a loyal following here in New Zealand. But also that's not to say that the growth and the scale isn't possible because now we've got our fundamentals of our business kind of platform set, and any growth is really now cherry on top in terms of what we can sustain with our manufacturing and our, we're quite established. So therefore our relationships and our key supply chain is actually quite set for growth. I think in the early stages when you are still learning, possibly some of your, who you're relying on, who you're trusting, and because all of our shoes aren't made in New Zealand, we've never been able to make them in New Zealand. And that's been the case from when I was 21. So we're relying on these huge trust building relationships, and some of those manufacturers we're working with are 18 years, 20 years together. That doesn't obviously come from the very beginning. If you're supplying big supply chain instantly and you're going to, you know, the likes of department stores, it's terrifying because you're at the mercy of them holding to what they said they'd do for you. It's everything from timelines, logistics, freight, pricing, materials, components, and shoes have so many components. Either things you're not even seeing on the inside, but also obviously all the uppers. So, yeah, I think now that being a more established brand, global, is almost to our advantage that we're able to take on orders and have confidence in our ability to supply.
So has it changed a lot in the 20 years that you've been in business?
In terms of the...
Well, just all of it, really. I suppose, would you do it again 20 years ago?
I know.
You know, is it different now than it was then? I mean, obviously it is for you because, as you say, you've learnt, you've developed a brand.
I would like to think it's getting easier because the world's getting smaller. As in, like, we can jump on a plane and go now from New Zealand, there's pretty much flights overnight anywhere, which is fantastic. There's you could speak and Google will translate for you if you're working in Italy. Back when I was starting out, I remember we had to have agents in Italy and Spain because they wouldn't... maybe they don't want to deal with me as an English-speaking person, but also they wouldn't. They'd refuse to speak. You know, in France, they speak French. They don't, Now, when we visit Japan and China, all the signs are in English, and if they're not, you've got a phone that translates the transport. Everything's now so accessible.
Yeah, you're right. And our kids see it as just so accessible. Yeah. You know, they think globally. There's just no two ways about it.
I also think the relationships have been established with working with Westerners. They really we respect them hugely, whether this is working out of Europe or working out of Asia. There's, Australians and New Zealanders are really solid business operators. We're quite trustworthy with our supply chain. So that's all been built before me, and now it's even easier, I think. There's a good name of New Zealanders doing business globally. Yeah.
Do you worry about some of our young designers that are really struggling? You know, and you can see some of them sort of closing down and then quite,
Of course.
It's always happened though, right?
Yeah. Well, of course. I think there's the cyclical, changes in the economy, and there's big things that have happened in the last 5 years that possibly haven't happened in my lifetime of business other than the GFC. So there's some harsh learnings for us even, fully established businesses much bigger than ours. We're having to make decisions, really to keep in mind the next 10 years, the next 20 years that we might not have ever made before.
Yeah.
So sure, if you didn't have the right networks of people around you, the right advice, and some of those risks you take at the beginning are huge, regardless of what the macro factors are. So yes, it's hard. But also, if you're starting out, you're of a smaller scale, you less to lose, start again, go for it. Smaller lessons. Sometimes when you're bigger, the lessons are harder to swallow because more is on the line.
Yeah. And we talk about fast fashion, but you can also really see that push towards sustainability. And you touched on it earlier with, you'd like to think that I'm going to keep your shoes for life, and that's part of that sustainability story. Do you see, you're in competition with the fast fashion in some respects, they were coming in cheaper and we were all sort of going, let's have a fun for 3 months and throw it away and go again. But we are all getting a bit more conscious that actually you pay for quality and keep it. Do you see that in the industry?
I'd like to think so. I think we have a huge loyal following of New Zealand buyers for New Zealand brands, which I'm super proud of, and we would always pioneer that as New Zealand's leading shoe brand. I think it's so awesome that we have this really strong support network of especially women that are wanting to buy New Zealand fashion. Fast fashion, sure, it has its purpose for some people. I think for us, we were never too threatened by it, knowing that our shoes, it's comfort. Like we're using components that are going to feel good, last forever. So sure, there's always going to be a market that might be more price pointed and that has its purpose for some reasons for some people. We've been fortunate to know that hand on heart our customer base is a repeat customer, and they know and trust that our brand is going to make them leave the house at 8 a.m, full day in the office, meet a girlfriend for a drink, husband for dinner, get home at 11 p.m. in the same pair of heels. And that's like a trust, knowing that is going to be the purchase is driving them to do, versus the other type of shoe, wherever it might be from, that they can wear to dinner, like we were talking about earlier.
But which is real. I don't want to be the massive fangirl myself, but, I will be, at 8 o'clock in a pair of your heels and someone will go, wow, they're wonderful. And I'll say, I put them on at 6:30 this morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just look at you like you're lying. And I'm like, oh no, I've been wearing them since 6:30 this morning.
Yeah, and I just think that's New Zealand woman. Like, we're practical, we're functional, we're on the go. There's no apologising for how, like we're doing 20, probably like women around the world, we're doing 20 things at once. But also there is a practicality that comes with that. And then my need, my customer need, as well as me being the demographic and you, is that the shoe solves a problem for them. Like, they want to look good, but absolutely they want to feel good.
And be able to move.
And how it makes you feel.
Yeah. Online shopping, what do you reckon? Yeah, it is, eh?
For us, I mean, sure, the pandemic was a part of it. We were quite established in that area and we were fortunate enough to have just invested quite a lot in our digital platform. And then, of course, it went from all marketing, our entire marketing spend went to digital, from the likes of catwalk, print, like the years that we've done all sorts of campaigns and events. Now it went purely to digital. So we've learned, I've been really interested to see, that whole ROI and all those chats that the marketers love those. But actually with this, you can't argue with the numbers because it's exact and you can really follow the journey of a customer in terms of engagement, click-through. So it's not just about purchasing for me, but it's about how many people are on our site, at what time, are they new customers, have they never bought from us before,
wow,
where are they coming from, how are they finding us, how are they searching our brand. Like, I'm really interested in it, and I'm really intrigued by the growth that we've experienced. And then obviously it's the promise that we're offering them with the service, because just because they're online shouldn't feel any less exciting than being in store.
Yeah.
It's like our website should feel like, it's that, when you walk in a store, you smell the candle and you hear the music and you get the service. Whereas online, we're needing this to be merchandise, fresh all the time, and like feel joyful and represent our brand in a screen. So all of that is quite considered as well.
I can vouch for it that in real lockdown for my birthday, I bought a pair of your shoes online, and they got delivered and they didn't fit me.
Oh.
And so I just emailed and went, how do I get them back? And, should we just wait and I'll swap them, when we get out of this mess? And they went, no, we'll drop you off another pair. And it wasn't because it was me. It was because I was just a customer. And they just literally bought me, and they, and it was...
With a mask.
I was going to say, it was that time when, you keep the door shut, and they came up and they put the box on the front doorstep, and then I waited till they walked away, and then I opened it, and then,
So again, because I think it's that product that brings people joy. Our whole purpose with these team meetings through that time it was really interesting. We weren't allowed in the warehouse at the same time. We weren't allowed, it was like, actually you weren't allowed within a metre of each other, etc.
Yeah.
So we had to have the girls going at different times packing orders, but they didn't want to be sitting around watching Netflix. It was beyond that stage. They were like, we want to be needed. We want to be you. We want to be helpful.
Yeah.
And get the brand through this. So I was surrounded by an epic team of shoe loving, and then the joy that brought so many customers, where we would say, no, we'll drive them to you, we'll leave them at the gate, and text you when they're there. And it's that kind of customer promise of the joy that it brought them through a product, that it gave them a light-hearted relief to whatever was, it's a lot of heavy things happening in the world.
Yeah.
So if we could just be a part of that kind of lightness. But I do remember them telling me the story of coming out to Paula.
Yeah, no, well, I was very, very grateful. And so that last piece of advice for someone that's, wants to start out, definitely, do you think, get online early, know your brand, learn from your mistakes?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Surround yourself with, people that fill your cup.
Yeah.
Like big thinking, optimistic. I've had the joy of being around females and males, but females that have really filled my cup with the attitude of course you can, go for it.
Yeah.
And that's my mother included, but the likes of, Julie Christie, Sarah Tetro, Roseanne Mayo, the list goes on, Sylvana Skinoni, lots of industries, lots of powerhouse women that I, look up to, Cecilia Robinson. And that not only have they been loyal customers because they believe in the brand, but then they've gone, what's next? What else?
Yeah. What are you doing now?
How far do you want to, how big do you want to be? Or the same way, providing feedback that's real, that's this is my need and my purpose, and this is what I want from you as a customer. So I think it is about doing it, don't wait, go, be fearless, follow your dream.
Yeah, love it.
Fill your cup, but be around people that also kind of are willing to come on that journey with you, and be your high-fivers, be your cheerleaders.
Yeah, you do that, you need that 100%. Okay, Kathryn, podcast is called Ask Me Anything. So this is your chance. If you would like to, it's not compulsory that you may ask me a question.
I love it. Can I go quick fire?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
She says reluctantly.
Favourite karaoke song?
Yeah, I normally do a share number. You know, if I could turn back time.
Oh, good. I love that.
Yeah. Although I've been trying to do Eminem Slim Shady.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
Yeah, just to be a bit different. I was like, you know what? That 80s,
Very nice.
a powerhouse woman thing, it's just a little bit cliche. But there's a lot of lyrics in that song.
Oh, yeah, and the rapping and the speed. Okay, maybe we should have a girls' night in to practice. Favourite fashion moment?
Oh gosh, like everyone, great ones, nightmares, you know what I mean? Anything in between. I bought in the Salvation Army store in Ashburton one day a completely national blue ball dress that was, and it was a prom dress that, Cinderella thing that I'd never worn in my life. And so I bought it for like $20, got it dry cleaned and wore it to my after party when I left Parliament.
I think I remember seeing that in a photo.
And I loved it.
It's your moment.
Well, it was just ridiculous.
What shoes did you wear?
I think I wore sneakers because I'd worn my heels till about 10.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then rocked a beautiful suit, and then I put my $20 Salvation Army. What do you call that? Twill,
twirl.
Yeah, something like that.
Last one, favourite holiday spot in New Zealand?
Oh, in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Mad keen fishing, so obviously on the sea, could be pretty much anywhere. I had the best trip, West Coast, the last time we had summer, so about 2 years ago.
22 years ago.
Yeah, about 2 years ago. And I was just remembering it the other day. I was looking at photos and I was just like, my God, that was one of the best trips of my life,
Nice.
And I swam with wild dolphins, where I just met some locals and they said, as you do you want to come and swim with dolphins? And I was just like, God, only in New Zealand, man. Only in New Zealand. Kathryn, just thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom, all your words. I know that there are people that are going to have really learned something from today. Check out Kathryn's stunning shoes at kathrynwilson.com. We spell Kathryn with a Kathryn.
Tricky.
There's a few ways out there. Or go to one of her boutiques, and we've got a new shop that's just moved and opening up in Jervois Road.
That's right.
So go there. That's it for another episode of Ask Me Anything. If you enjoyed this episode, please go follow the podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to get in touch with me, you can email askpaula@nzherald.co.nz, or you can find me on Facebook, Instagram or LinkedIn. I'm Paula Bennett. Ask Me Anything. Goodbye.